All right. Hi, AP Humans. Miss Jeffords here to go over 2.8 Women and Demographic Change. Take a minute, pause, and set up your notes like this. You can see these are shorties today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is women's roles in society. And we know that historically, the role of women has changed quite a bit over time. So TFR, total fertility rate, which is affected by shifts in economic, social, political, and natural changes, okay? You've heard me talk about this quite a bit. The more rights women have, the lower our birth rates are, okay? This map up here, move myself all over the place. The global gender gap by country. So the things that they take into account for determining what the global gender gap is again, they look at these economic development, education, healthcare access, cultural traditions, and basically the greener the country on this map, the lower the gap, if you will. So women are kind of more on an equal access plane as males. So the greens are showing you that where the gap is smaller. And then unfortunately, we see the pinks and the dark reds where there is still a pretty significant gap between that. Again, if you were able to overlay this global gender gap map over the fertility rate, you would see direct correlation. The pinks and grays on, or not grays, excuse me, the pinks on this map are going to overlay with your more like purples and pinks on this map. The greens on the global gender map are going to line up with the lower fertility rates on this map. All right. And again, check this map out. So shifts in fertility rates over the past 40 years. And again, you guys can see if we were looking at this from like an 4-level map approach, what started to happen with fertility. And you can see the shifting pattern of overall as a world, we're having less kids, which is moving us in that direction. But there are certainly still parts of the world that have higher fertility rates than others. All right. Does more education among women drop the fertility rate? You betcha. Again, more access to education and jobs that women have, the lower fertility rates there are. So the way that this map is read is that the beige countries are giving women have access to more than 12 years of education, all the way down to the dark browns is going to be 6 or less. Again, fertility is higher in countries that women have less options for education. All right. And again, global fertility rate, remember 2.1 is the replacement level, which means if the women's fertility rate stays at 2.1, that balances deaths with the amount of that. Lower than 2.1, we actually start to see that population decline overall. Higher than 2.1, we see that growth. So you can still see many parts of sub-Saharan Africa are going to be in that 5 to almost 9 kids. Wow. All right, family planning. Again, we've talked a lot about this already. So when women get access to family planning, where can I go? Then they have lower amounts of kids. So when you are in an area that has more of a traditional religious approach, you usually typically see a higher total fertility rate. Okay. This is interesting, talking about that religious connection here. The Catholic faith is definitely promotes that you don't necessarily interfere with natural contraception or conception by using contraception. So you can see here the darker red countries are higher Catholic populations, and you can also see a correlation in higher birth rates in those parts of the world. Okay. Now, guys, we're going to go ahead right into 2.9 just while we're in the same video here. So now at the same time as looking at women, we're going to look at aging populations. And again, we've talked about this quite a bit already. So go ahead and set your notes up like this. Again, 2 quick little notes here. All right. We've looked at this before. So again, make sure you guys understand the dependency ratio is the number of dependent or non-working age groups. So that's usually your 0 to 15-ish year olds, and then your 65 and older. They add those numbers together for the top, and then the bottom is everybody in between, 15 to 64, carrying the burden of society for these populations. Okay. And again, compares the non-working to the working parts of the population. ESPN impact of the dependency ratio is shown in the amount of young or old. So again, if there is a large number of old people in a society, that is going to put different pressures on that younger working class versus if there was a higher number of babies, that has different implications of economic, social, political factors. Natural, I mean, that kind of goes both ways. All right, so check this out. Old age dependency ratio. So this is the ratio of people that are older than 64 relative to the number of working age. So the way we read this is the darker blue basically means there's more old people in that area. So you can see the United States, Canada, Western Europe, Japan, and Australia are going to be on the more old people side of this. But remember, our population still grows because of in-migration. Lower, the like more light gray, and then beyond that color is they have extremely young populations. And so again, like sub-Saharan Africa, due to their level on the DTM, we just don't see that many old people in those countries. Oops. And then the last one here, spatial distribution. So like, how does this play out with where people live in a society? So I'm gonna hide myself somewhere. Here we go. Where do seniors live in the United States? Old people like warm weather. It's easier on their bones. It's less for them to have to worry about snow shoveling. They can go on their daily walks. I mean, it attracts old people for those reasons. So in the United States, Florida is our number one location for an elderly population. So you can see here that 19.36% of their population are aged 65 or older. Arizona, New Mexico, again, warmer climates. You guys can see a higher, for the older people there. And then on the flip, Utah is, it's a very seasonal place, much like Colorado. So old people don't necessarily flock to Utah because they still would have to deal with snow at some point. And then think about, again, warmer climates are going to have to increase their need for geriatric or old services. So again, access to wheelchair ramps, having more like one level houses. So an elderly person can just live on one level versus having to go up and down stairs. And then having doctors that specialize more in like geriatric ailments or diseases. Okay. All right, guys, so that was it for 2.9 and 2.8 and 2.9. So again, women, more educated, more opportunities, less babies. Old people put different types of pressures on a society, and they like warm weather. I mean, who doesn't? You guys are awesome. Have a great day. Bye-bye.